Hello everyone, this is FDV vladerag here to bring you another episode of Learn to Play, where we take Bronze League heroes and turn them into Silver League villains. Today we are going to be examining the basics on how do you scout a Protoss. My friend FDV's Dark Voice has volunteered, well okay fine, I sort of press-gained him into helping me explain how that happened. So for the very first run-through of this replay, we're going to be in his point of view, going through and looking at how it is done. He will of course be doing the scout, and I will be doing the toss kind of stuff. Anyway, we do appear to be having just a tad bit of lag, because of course, why wouldn't it be lagging when I make one of these videos? I don't know why not. Anyways, probably should actually, I'm gonna back up here a second, hit that B key, hitting it twice apparently. Whatever, doesn't matter all that much. There we go. I don't know why the camera was over there. Anyways, you'll notice right here that he scouts after Pylon. That's actually a really good thing to mention. That as Protoss or as Terran, you often would like to scout after your supply depot. Terran, it can be a little more in-depth. You can either send an SCV as you begin to build your supply depot, or rally the SCV from your supply depot to the opponent's base, basically depending on how you want your economy to look. It's not totally important for this, because what's going to happen next is much more important. Just remember to scout around the time you put your supply down. Okay, has the gateway down. Remember not to let your macro slip in favor of that. My mouse is frozen. Why does that happen? Do not know. Not terribly important. Just means that I can't do things like gesture. There we go, it has unfrozen. We are going to be looking at his point of view. Notice that he goes around, takes a look, and then is hiding the probe over here. I do know that I do end this replay before he has a chance to scout again. He has this on patrol. This means that basically when I send units to clear this out, it won't necessarily kill this probe, but it will scout the Nexus. That's actually a really smart thing to do. Either way. Now anyways, let's talk about what he actually would scout if he was continuing to keep the probe in the base. Okay, good enough. Done. That's the end of that replay. So we're going to pause here and talk about what we're looking at. When you scout a Protoss, there are certain variables for what they could be doing, and this is one of them. When you scout Pylon and Gateway, it's sort of the most generic opening a Protoss can do. When you see a Pylon and a Gateway in the main base, that means the next thing you're going to look for is the gas. So if he'd had his probe running around in here and he spotted this one gas with 3 workers in it, he immediately knows that I am not doing a 1-gate expand before cybernetics core, because it's just not efficient to take that gas and do that expansion. So you can knock that off the list. But what he can't do is say that I'm not 4-gating him, or that I'm not doing a Dark Templar rush, or Blink Stalkers, or any sort of 1-base play. And if you ever take a look at Day 9's Rapid Reads daily, I forget which number it is, I'll talk a lot about you'll very rarely know precisely what your opponent is doing, but you can know what they can't be doing and what they can be doing. So, what I can't be doing, or at least cannot be doing well, you have to make that distinction, because I still could throw down a Nexus after my gas. It's just not a good idea usually. So, what this means is I have the potential to be aggressive. Later we're going to talk about responses. How do I respond to scouting? But for right now, in this episode, we're only going to talk about what do we see when we're scouting. When we see this, we say, okay, it could be a 4-gate. It could be Blink Stalker. It could just be, a 1-gate. It could just be a 1-gate with cybernetics core expand, or 2-gate robotics. How do we then decide? How do we find it? Well, he was about to go in with this probe and scout again, but around this time, as I would have been throwing down my cybernetics core and getting a zealot out, if I am intending to go for a 4-gate, I will not take another gas, and I will begin to, as you see here, build up Chrono Boost. That's another thing you want to look at, is the chrono boost on a Nexus. Lots of chrono boost early on usually means they plan to spend it somewhere, like on warp gate research. If he had seen a second gas come down and one of these probes gone, for example, transferred over, it could be something as simple as a mothership core expand, where I go 1 gate, cyber core, mothership core, expand. And with these 2 gases, because you can't always be sure, 2 gases means a tech play. It'll mean I'm going Blink Stalker, I'm going for that mothership core, I'm going Dark Templar Rush, or even perhaps I'm going for a 1-base Colossus push. Something like that. And those are basically the options you get with this. When you see a pylon and a gateway down in the main base, check to see if they have a gas. If they don't have a gas immediately after the gateway, chances are they're going for a Nexus immediately after it. If there is a gas down, you have to worry about, okay, how much chrono boost do they have? Do they, when they put their when they put their cybercore down, do they chrono boost it immediately? Because if they have a lot and no second gas, you have to worry about 4-gate. If they take their second gas, have a lot of chrono boost, and are not looking to expand, that could mean tech play like Blink Stalker. Basically, this means you have to be careful. That is what I want you to take from it. If you see a gas and a gateway like this, remember that the toss could be aggressive and to be careful about it. Now we're going to move on to the next next replay here in a second, where we'll discuss some of the other options that toss can open with and what you're looking at when you scout them. Alright, and we're back for our second replay on scouting against Protoss. This is actually take number 4 on this, I guess, because I've been getting calls recently about some personal issues that basically, let's say I'm glad that I have this schedule, that I'll be scheduling these videos and putting them out at intervals, because these issues will not interfere with the content coming out on YouTube. Anyways, we are going to discuss another option. Now, the pylon, the location of the very first pylon a Protoss puts down, is extremely important to figuring out what a Protoss is doing. For example, right here, something that Zerg commonly sees, but any race can see, is a pylon on the low ground by the natural. This symbolizes a forge fast expand. Now there are some details and things that we're going to be examining here, but I would like to point out that if you do not do a forge fast expand versus Zerg, if you do it versus a Terran or a Protoss, it can be very easily exploited. Basically any other form of fast expand from those players will overwhelm it, and any sort of 1-base play will crush it straight up. So basically you don't want to do this versus a Protoss or Terran, and if you are a Protoss or Terran, just be thankful for the free win. Now here is a very critical moment. Around 14 supply, 13 supply, this area, your probe or drone or whatever scout is going to reach your opponent's base, and you should begin to see, say, their very first building come down. If they're going for a forge or a gateway, this is about the time they'll have 150 minerals to be able to put it down. Now, with a forge fast expand, because the pylon is on the low ground, it will be slightly behind, but you should pass the worker as it heads to this location. If you don't, if you see a lot of workers here, maybe low chrono boost on the Nexus being spent into the Nexus, is a very telltale sign. At this point, especially with nothing coming down here, you would know immediately. I'm going to pause this here. Oh, here. There we go. I don't want it to do the vision thing that it does when you surrender. Anyways, when you come in here and you see that there are a lot of probes and none of them seem intent on going down, you can be fairly certain what you're looking at is a Nexus first. Otherwise, you would see a Forge and then a Nexus. Nexus first is greedy, so you might be able to look to exploit that, but again, that is for a discussion for another time. Just very simply, pylon on low ground means Forge fast expand. If you see a Forge coming down, that means you're going Forge first, and we'll have a cannon up very soon to be able to help defend. If you do not see a forge come down first, it'll be a nexus first. They'll still have a cannon up fairly quickly, but they won't be able to defend as fast. Meaning that something like a 10 pool will definitely be able to hit before the cannon is done, but it's not completely indefensible, basically. Either way, that is the basics of that, and we'll be moving on to a couple more replays for you. Only 2 more left. There's not going to be a horribly long... Alright, we're back for replay number 3, as we're going to be looking into some of the more cheesy things and how to scout them. And this is actually a little bit of a discussion that I did just sort of for laughs. There are indeed very important things to see scouting. He was talking about making sure to mention the chrono boost before, which I did in that first one, and the second, where the chrono boost is spent, makes a good deal of difference. If you can scout it, for example, going down on a Twilight Council, you'll easily be able to say that they're going for Blink Stalker. I mean, technically they could be going for Charge, but that's not very common. Either way, we are going to be seeing a cannon rush. I'm not even going to beat around the bush. I am going to cannon rush Dark Voice. I actually do it very well timed. I'm very, very proud of it, but we're going to explain how he could scout it. Now, once again, we are going to see his worker move out and get that scout. This is a very short rush distance map, so his scout will be there quicker, or much more fast than usual. Either way, we're about to see the very important point. He immediately sort of checks to see if there is a natural. Don't know why, since I don't think I could have gotten up this quickly anyway. Right here. At this point, you know what's happening. Forge first, without any semblance of a wall off. In the main base, with 10 probes on mineral. You don't even need to see the probes to know right away that this is a cannon rush. At this point, you want to immediately start to scout your own base. Basically, if a forge is down first, and there's nothing going on, nothing like a forge fast expand, it's a cannon rush. If it's not a cannon rush, then they're just bad, so don't really worry about it. My mouse froze. Again, interesting note that when that freezes, I'm not able to quit the replay. Interesting note. Either way, that's how you scout a cannon rush. It's really easy. If you see a forge, it's a cannon rush. Pretty much. Now we're going to move on to the next one. Hello again. Last game we looked at cheese in the form of a cannon rush, and how did we scout that? Now we're going to be looking at other cheeses, and this will also address the concept of what if they decide to proxy the forge. Now, because it is possible, if somebody really wanted to hide a cannon rush, for me to put the forge, or the pylon and the forge here, and then begin my cannon rush there. It's not quite as safe, if you can ever call a cannon rush safe, but it is possible. Either way, we will begin to examine how do you scout a proxy. Now, remember in my previous replays, I talked about where the pylon is placed. The where the pylon is placed is extremely important. In the main base can mean a lot of things, from a 1 gateway to expand, to a 4 gate, to some sort of Dark Templar rush. And once you see the pylon down here, you have to say, okay, what comes next? Is it a gateway? Is it a forge? If it is a gateway, do we have the gases taken, and how many gases? Things like that. But now we're going to see, well, what happens if there is no pylon? Well, here's the thing, the pylon is always somewhere. The pylon is always somewhere unless your opponent is AFK. So if you can't find the pylon, that means it is probably near your base and you've been proxied. Now, the proxy could be, it still could be a cannon rush. It's not impossible, but normally this signifies a 2-gate zealot rush, which again, later in other Learn to Play, and now there you see, he scouts it and finds it. In other Learn to Play, we will examine how do you defeat these cheeses, but that's how you do it for now. Either way, to quickly recap everything that's going on so far in these games. The first thing to look for is where the pylon is. Pylon in the main base means either it can mean pretty much anything. They could still be going for a fast expand. They still could be going to be really aggressive. They could be doing a whole lot of things, or even really defensive. It's just, that is generic toss opener. Don't read a whole lot into it. If the pylon is by the natural, it's a forge fast expand, and the next thing you're going to be looking for is it forge or nexus first, and you can decide how you're going to play based on that. If you find no pylon at all, they're cheesing you, be ready. Now, with the pylon in the main base, we can additionally say, well, what comes next? If it's a forge next, again, they're cheesing you, so you gotta be prepared for that. You gotta find and kill the probe, and you don't want their first cannon to complete. Once the first cannon completes, you're in trouble. The second option is that they have a gateway, and at that point we want to say, okay, have they taken a gas? Gas is extremely important for Protoss. If they don't have gas, they won't be able to make stalkers, they won't be able to make sentries, and they can't get warp gate. Warp gate, of course, is how they warp units towards your base, so if they don't have gas, they can't be foregating you. They can't be doing blink stalker, they cannot be doing any sort of tech play, which means they're probably expanding. Again, they still could be on a map like Agria, for example, going for a bunch of zealots to try and kill you, but it's not the best thing for them to try and do. It's possible, don't discount it, but don't think it very likely either. Now, if you see one gas, you'll want to keep your probe, or keep your drone, or keep your SCV scouting around their base to see the timing of their second gas. You can keep a probe or an SCV, or just a worker in general, in a Protoss's base until the stalker comes out. And at that point you do have to leave. So basically, I think it's like 20 seconds after a cyber core finishes, you have to be out of their base. But that gives you ample time to scout the second gas. Now, if your opponent takes a second gas, versus Protoss, this means that they are not foregating. Well, okay, they will not be doing a fast foregate. You cannot foregate with this gas taken as quickly as a normal foregate is. They could be doing mind games with you and taking the second gas to try and trick you. However, that will delay their foregate anyway, so you don't really have to be too worried about it. Two gases still could mean a tech play. It still could be aggressive. It could be early blink stalker. It could even be some sort of stalker push that happens before blink, or even some sort of sentry all in. Nevertheless, it's a tech play, and you know that you have time. You don't have to be worried about anything hitting you before, like the 7-8 minute mark, for the most part. With that second gas, that's pretty much what it is. Again, you can't discount aggression still, but you can just say that it won't be really before 6-7 minutes. Wow, I think I was redundant there a bit, but I think I got it all out. That is how you scout versus Protoss. How to deal with it, of course, is all a different matter, one that we will examine another day. I am wow, I cannot even say my own name. I am FDV's vladerag.